am Jeff Maris from WestPolitics.com. And next week is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And I have Tia Nelson here. She's the managing director for climate at the Outrider Foundation in Madison. And of course, the daughter of Earth Day founder Gaylord Nelson. Welcome, Tia.
Thanks, Jeff. It's great to be with you.
So you're in Washington, D.C. area. How have you been coping with this coronavirus? What's it done to your schedule?
Well, I came out to visit my mom, and it's turned into a longer than originally envisioned visit. I've been here 5 weeks. I'll probably be here at least another month, I suppose. You know, I'm grateful that for us, we're sequestered here at home like millions of people in America and billions of people around the world. But my routine, excuse me, my routine isn't that different, other than my busyness around doing media to promote the 50th anniversary, which is, you know, obviously very important to me personally, along with caring for Mom.
Yes. What do you think Gaylord would think about? I was lucky enough to meet the senator and former governor, and I kind of have an idea what he might think about this, but what do you think he would think about this 50th anniversary?
Well, you know, I'm sure that he would feel a sense of pride that it has endured and is a significant part of his legacy, and that people around the world are celebrating Earth Day. Unfortunately, this year we'll be doing it through virtual events versus in-person events, and so he would celebrate that. I'm certain he would remind you, as I suspect you've heard him say before, that finding a balance between humans and our planet and the finite resources, that's a journey, not a destination. It just never ends. So the struggle will always go on, and perhaps what would trouble him the most is, and this is, I think, a pretty significant change from 50 years ago, there was largely absent denialism of science. And that's a deeply unfortunate development, that science has been weaponized in a political manner. And I suspect that that would be one of his gravest concerns.
What's this anniversary mean to you? You know, you've been so involved in these, in the battle. What's it mean to you?
Well, obviously I feel a great sense of duty to tell my father's story. But I don't want to just reflect on the past. I want to help inspire youth today to see the power they have to make a difference. The first Earth Day changed the course of American history. More environmental laws were passed in the decade that followed than any other time. A Republican president created the Environmental Protection Agency. The Clean Air Act was adopted. The Clean Water Act was adopted. And the energy of youth changed the national discourse, which was my father's goal. So I want kids today to see that power, and I reflect a lot on this. You know, what is the power of individual action? And I personally am in, you know, my own dance between hope and despair on the eve of the first Earth Day. But, you know, could Rosa Parks had known that simply stating the word no when told to go to the back of the bus during a time of segregation would change the course of the civil rights movement? She couldn't possibly have known that, any more than my father could have known that the simple idea of calling for a teach-in on the environment would have had the outcome it did. It was successful beyond his wildest dreams. To make it more contemporary, think of Greta Thunberg. There's no way she could have known that the simple act of sitting alone with a sign protesting climate change in front of the Swedish parliament would launch a global youth movement. So I want, through Outrider's film, reflecting on the past, the present, and the future of the environmental movement, I want to inspire young people to see that they can make a difference, and encourage them to get involved.
So what's the next 50 years of Earth Day look like to you?
Well, you know, my goal is to do everything I can so that, you know, 50 years from now on the 100th anniversary, I at least feel like I've done my job. It'll be, we can't know. I think one of the interesting things to reflect on in the midst of the global pandemic is, a lot of excuses have been made about acting on climate change, that being too disruptive. And that's why we can't have more aggressive policies when in fact we need urgent action on climate change. The pandemic has demonstrated that we can unite together and rise up to a global challenge and act in the interests of others, especially the most vulnerable among us. And whether we can learn from this experience and come out of this experience with new ways of thinking and doing that build a more sustainable future, that's a big unanswered question.
So we've mentioned the coronavirus crisis here a couple of times. What does that inform? How does that inform us? Inform you about how Earth Day and the environmental movement moves forward?
Well, I'm not sure that I'm, smart enough to give you a clever answer on that, Jeff. Truth be told, it is interesting. You'll see on social media posts. The canals in Venice, Italy, are clear and have fish in them now. The Himalayan mountain peaks can be seen from India for the first time in decades because of the decrease in pollution. That's not going to stop. That's not a permanent state of affairs, because as the economy comes back to life, and so will pollution. But I hope that it at least illuminates to people the impact humans are having on water quality and air quality, and helps them think about how really it is everyone's right to breathe clean air and drink clean water. And it requires sound science and good public policy, informing good public policy. It requires politicians to lead to protect our rights. And I hope that at least it can illuminate in ways we couldn't have otherwise imagined those values.
Yeah, we shouldn't be fooled, though. I think that temporary respite for the environment is temporary.
Oh, you're absolutely right. That wasn't, and I hope I didn't suggest otherwise. My point simply was that it showed us what human impact is on the environment, and how nature has, shown itself in a different way with this reduced human impact.
Yeah, now I want to move on to the movie that Outrider Foundation produced, which features you and your dad, Gaylord Nelson. And, it's 7 minutes long, and there's a lot packed in there. What was the goal, and what do you want people to take away from it?
Well, I've been thinking for the last year of the upcoming anniversary. What do I do to honor my father? What do I do to inspire youth? I didn't want to simply reflect on the past. I recruited Varshini Prakash, the co-founder of the Sunrise Movement, an amazing youth climate activist and leader, whose work I admire, and who's a big proponent of the aspirations of the Green New Deal. And Bob Inglis, a former Republican congressman, a former climate change skeptic, who has now dedicated his life to fighting climate change with a sense of urgency. He formed a group called Republic EN and works with conservatives on a different set of policy solutions to climate change. I thought that they would be the perfect voices to add to my father's voice with the archival footage of my dad speaking at UW-Milwaukee on the eve of the first Earth Day, to sort of bookend and restate the point. The first Earth Day was multi-generational. it was bipartisan, and my father's call to action was one of social justice as well. I mean, his speech, which is included in this film, he says ecology is a big science, not a narrow science. It involves the worst environments in America, in the inner city, and in Appalachia. I found a print version of that speech where he goes on to say it includes rats in the ghetto and public housing unworthy of its name. Mm-hmm. I don't think in the environmental community until recently really took seriously the social and environmental justice aspect of the movement. And Varshini's voice does that. Bob has a different perspective on what the solution is. I thought they were perfect because they both are working with a sense of urgency to solve the same problem. And it doesn't matter to me that they have different solutions. What matters to me is they came together to have this conversation, to honor the past, the present, and to look towards building that brighter future. And so I'm enormously grateful to them. And I really think there's an entry point for everyone, regardless of their political affiliation, to become involved and to be inspired, I hope, by this film.
Okay, well, we're out of time now, but I really appreciate you talking to me and talking to Wiz Politics and Wiz Business about this. We'll be doing a special event on Earth Day, the next 50 years, on Tuesday, April 21st. So happy Earth Day to you, Tia.
Thank you. Happy Earth Day to you too. I'm grateful for you helping tell the story, Jeff. Thank you.